and you can fill me. There is primary cause of death, and then, if I remember my death certificates correctly, there were at least 5 or 6 lines of accessory or supplementary causes of death. I think a doctor could write down, a drug or something that's supplementary. I'm going to guess, because I've seen a lot of games played in death certificates, especially being in the 80s with AIDS. No one wanted to say they had AIDS, so doctors played a lot of games on death certificates to cover up people who died of AIDS and other diseases. So I think there's a way of doing that, and you're right, it's a game, it's money, but I think everybody needs to, and this is part of my question to you, doctor. Okay, let's assume that this law is poorly written. Let's assume it's a slippery slope. Let's assume that it's the wrong law and we need to write something else. But what do you tell your patients who are in these horrible, not suicidal, which is, you're correct, it's in the what's the DH or the DSM, it's there. The suicide is different. You're facing, the thing that always strikes me is the case in Florida where that man shot his wife. I'm sure either one of you know what I'm talking about. She was begging, she was on video, she was getting Alzheimer's disease, begging, please kill me. The family knew it, the husband knew it, the husband finally couldn't, his wife was fading away, didn't remember anybody, and he shot her in the head. I don't know if anybody remembers this.
Was that Shivo?
No,
this was
a different one.
It was a different case. I remember seeing his face. He was shattered because he was watching his wife essentially die. I mean, yes. I mean, I remember when the first thought in my head when Ronald Reagan finally died was, I was saying, thank God for Nancy. Imagine what it's like to watch the person you love fade to nothing but still be alive. So if we're going to kick this down the road, what do you suggest to the people who are pill hoarding, the people that have got the firearm somewhere in the house and are just waiting for things to get too bad, the single car accidents on the 495 where somebody hits a metal or a concrete abutment at 200 miles an hour? At some point, society and we are going to have to deal with people who choose to take their life, not because of a mental illness, but because they just can't handle or deal with in some way the pain, the disease, whatever. In other words, I think we have to handle it somehow, or allow people to ruin their lives like this man did in Florida, or just do it quietly in the front seat of their car, on the 495, and it's a single vehicle accident fatality. What do you propose we do then?
Let me just say that this went from a slippery slope of a 6-month window of terminal illness to one where, I'm not feeling very good today, and if you'll excuse me, I looked up in its Wikipedia, so give me a second, but it said, so the 2002, the Netherlands passed this physician-assisted suicide, and only 8 years later, in 2010, an initiative called Out of Free Will further demanded that all Dutch people over 70 who feel tired of life should have the right to professional help at ending it. It didn't pass. But that describes the
I'm not saying yes or no.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying that it's out there.
What do we do then? My question is, okay, so the law, we throw away the law because we don't like it because of the insurance companies, whatever. Okay, what do we do?
You're asking some really good and very different questions.
He does that a lot.
I think on one hand you're talking about like the man who you said shot his wife because she had Alzheimer's and somehow yet had the wherewithal to beg for dad.
She was progressing through, and she was telling everybody that she's on videotape. She's told all members of her family, her doctor, and there's nothing to do. There's nothing they could do for her.
So she wouldn't qualify for this.
Correct. She wouldn't.
Alzheimer's is a question that I do get asked a lot when I'm, it wouldn't qualify, and because the person's not mentally competent.
But they can be diagnosed while they're still in the early stages.
But see, they live for years and years. They don't typically expire after 6 months.
But again, the point is,
I know that's the other part, and I haven't forgotten. So what you're asking me is, how is a society, not just a state, but really, how does our country, how do we deal better with suffering and death? And loneliness, and how do we come around the people that are suffering to help them? I definitely don't have all the answers. Ways that I've seen that someone really could have a beautiful death. Hospice. Have any of you ever had anyone involved with hospice? Is it not like the most amazing thing? Shouldn't we be rallying to fund hospice? Shouldn't we be, creating, most of the oncologists have some sort of a link to hospice, but shouldn't we guarantee hospice to anyone that needs it? How can we deny that? But right now, people don't always know about it. They don't have access.
Let me be devil's advocate. I don't want hospice. I don't want it. I'm just saying.
Well, then you know
what do we do instead of this law is what I'm saying.
You know what I would do if you were sitting in my office? I would say, what do you want? Who are you? What do you want?
Like you were saying, I want to be in control of the ending of my life. I've got end-stage Hodgkin's lymphoma. I've got, I'm not going anywhere. This is it. This is the end. What do I do? What are my options? I don't want hospice. I don't want people hovering around. I'm trying to step in their shoes for a minute.
Yeah.
What do you? In other words, if we're gonna throw this out, what do we do?
It's a huge topic. I don't think I can give you all the answers. I think this is definitely the wrong way to go, though.
Okay.
And at so many levels.
Hey, doctor? I would, as Dr. Brown pointed out, your example about Alzheimer's disease simply doesn't qualify under the law. And in terms of the slippery slope in the Netherlands, I would note first that the slope stopped because the law wouldn't pass, that you could die if you were unhappy. But secondly, the Netherlands and Switzerland are entirely different from the law in the United States. In both of those countries, the physician produces the dying process. The physician does, in fact, hook up an IV, gives the patient the medicine, and often stands by while the IV is turned on until such time as the patient dies. That then changes the physician's role in the process. And that's why I think it's critical that we have the kinds of law that we do have, because I can tell you, research has shown, okay, that in states where this law does not exist, physicians help more people die intentionally than they do in states where this law exists.
Yeah, that's part of my question.
Because it's not tracked.
Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Uncle Sam had a bad accident on the tractor. He broke his back, and he's going to have to live with an artificial lung now. We know he's not going to want to live this way, doctor. Please, can you make sure that that doesn't happen? There's no law in place to secure that.
There's a lot of hearsay. I don't see any
Isn't that part
evidence
of
on
doing
that.
that resuscitation? Isn't it?
If you have it, and if you go to a Catholic hospital, they'll ignore it.
What about
And I'm a
living
Catholic,
wills?
so.
What about living wills? I mean, I had a living will done, and the lawyer said I was incapacitated for 6 months, that my heirs would have the option to do whatever is necessary. I said, why 6 months? 6 days is all I need. I mean, there are ways to do this without making it a law.
Peter, just one moment. This gentleman first, and then we'll go to Peter, then we'll go back if people have second questions. Go ahead.